let's get right into it. Number 9. Knocking on wood. So you're sitting there, bragging about how you've never broken a bone, and suddenly you feel the need to knock on wood. Ever wonder why we do that? Well, turns out it's not just some random superstition. It's actually an ancient way to avoid getting haunted. Back in the day, people thought trees were basically apartment buildings for spirits. The Celts, Native Americans, and other ancient folks believed that powerful spirits lived inside trees. These weren't your friendly Casper-type ghosts either. These spirits could mess up your life if they heard you bragging about how great things were going. So when people knocked on wood, they were basically trying to create a distraction. It's like when you're trying to sneak past your cat, but it spots you, so you point at something else and go, "Look over there." Same thing, but with potentially vengeful tree spirits. Some people thought the knocking sound would drown out whatever good thing you just said about yourself, like spiritual noise-canceling headphones for evil spirits. So next time you knock on wood, remember you're not just being superstitious. You're participating in an ancient anti-ghost protocol, and those spirits are probably sitting in their tree, rolling their eyes at yet another human trying to outsmart them. Number 8. Breaking the wishbone. Alright, so you know that weird thing we do with turkey bones after Thanksgiving? Well, it turns out we're basically performing a watered-down version of ancient chicken fortune-telling. Back in 600 BC, the Etruscans were really into chickens. Like, really into chickens. They thought these birds had a direct line to the future. So after sacrificing a chicken, they'd take its collarbone and lay it out to dry in the sun. This wasn't just any bone. It was their version of a crystal ball. People would come up and stroke this crusty old chicken bone, making wishes and trying to see the future. But here's where it gets interesting. When the Romans took over, they had a supply and demand problem. Too many wishmakers. Not enough chicken bones. So they came up with a solution that would make any economist proud. They started breaking the bones in half. It's like the ancient version of splitting the last cookie. The person who got the bigger piece was considered the universe's favorite. So next time you're fighting over a wishbone, remember you're participating in a tradition that started because some ancient Italians couldn't keep up with the demand for their chicken bone fortune-telling business. And you thought your family's holiday traditions were weird. Number 7. Handshakes. Ever wonder why we grab each other's hands and shake them like we're trying to mix a protein shake? Well, turns out it's all about making sure the other person isn't going to kill you. Back in the day, when meeting someone new was basically like playing Russian roulette, people came up with this neat little trick. They'd stick out their right hand to show they weren't holding a weapon. It's like the medieval version of, look, no hands. But wait, it gets better. The actual shaking part? That wasn't just people being overly enthusiastic about meeting each other. They were literally trying to shake out any hidden weapons the other person might have up their sleeve. Imagine meeting someone and going, "Nice to meet you," while violently shaking their arm hoping a dagger doesn't fall out. It's basically the world's first pat-down search. And in ancient Rome, it was serious business. They called it Dextrarum Junctio, which sounds like a Harry Potter spell, but was actually their way of saying, "I promise I won't stab you," probably. So next time you're shaking hands at a business meeting, remember you're basically performing an ancient "please don't murder me" ritual, and maybe be a little suspicious if someone refuses to shake hands. They might have a sword up their sleeve. Number 6. Tossing coins in fountains. You know that thing where you throw perfectly good money into water? Yeah, it turns out we're just copying ancient people who were trying to bribe water spirits. Back in the day, people thought wells and springs weren't just holes full of water. They thought these were basically divine customer service centers. Need rain for your crops? Toss a coin in the well. Want to cure that weird rash? Chuck some silver in the spring. Looking for love? Better make it gold. Those water spirits don't work cheap. The ancient Celts and Romans were especially into this. They saw these water sources as direct phone lines to the gods, or more accurately, like a divine vending machine. Insert coin, receive blessing. When archaeologists dig up ancient wells, they find thousands of coins. It's like finding a really old wishing fountain, except instead of tourists' pennies, it's full of, "Please don't let me die of plague" money. So next time you're about to toss a coin in a fountain, remember you're not just making a wish, you're participating in an ancient tradition of trying to bribe supernatural entities with spare change. And somewhere, an ancient water spirit is probably laughing at how inflation has affected their offerings. A penny? Back in my day, they used to throw in whole gold coins. Number 5. Wedding veils. So you're at a wedding, watching the bride float down the aisle in her pretty white veil, thinking how romantic it all is. Well, hate to burst your bubble, but that veil isn't there to look pretty. It's actually ancient ghost protection gear. Back in ancient Rome, Brides wore these thick, bright orange veils called flammeum, and no, it wasn't because orange was the new white. They thought the bride was basically a spirit magnet on her wedding day. Jealous ghosts, angry ex-boyfriends from the afterlife, evil spirits with nothing better to do, they all wanted a piece of the action. So this veil was like supernatural mosquito netting. The bright color and thick fabric were supposed to either hide the bride or make her look so unattractive that spirits would go, "Nah, I'll pass." But wait, it gets better. In arranged marriages, the veil had an even more awkward purpose. It was basically a medieval version of catfishing protection. The groom wouldn't see the bride's face until after they were married. By then it was too late. No refunds, no exchanges. So next time you're admiring a bride's beautiful veil, remember it's actually a combination of ghost repellent and a no takebacks policy. Number 4. Shoes on wedding cars. Ever see those shoes tied to the back of newlyweds' cars and think, how cute? Well, buckle up, because this tradition is about as romantic as a medieval property contract. Back in Anglo-Saxon times, when a woman got married, her dad would hand over her shoe to the groom. It was literally a receipt for a human being. The shoe was like the ancient version of a bill of sale. Here's your bride, and here's her shoe to prove you own her now. No returns. And it gets worse. Wives were expected to put their husband's shoes by the bed every night. It was basically saying, hey, remember who's boss around here. Even the whole throwing shoes at the couple thing wasn't about good luck. It was other people basically saying, yeah, we agree, she belongs to you now. So next time you see a cute little shoe tied to a wedding car, remember it's actually a remnant from when women were traded like Pokemon cards. And you thought your relationship had issues. Number 3. Beds. Ever wonder why we sleep on elevated platforms instead of just crashing on the floor like our ancestors? Well, turns out it's not because we're fancy. It's because we're scared of getting eaten in our sleep. Back in the day, sleeping on the ground was basically like hosting an all-you-can-eat buffet for every creepy crawler in town. Imagine trying to get some shut-eye while wondering if that tickle on your leg is your blanket or a hungry rat doing a taste test. The ancient Egyptians were the first ones to say, nope, not doing this anymore, and invented the elevated bed. It was like their version of a panic room, but for sleeping. And those fancy bed curtains and canopies you see in old castles? Those weren't for privacy or style, they were primitive mosquito nets. Medieval Europe took this idea and ran with it, especially in cities where the streets were basically open sewers. When your neighborhood is one giant petri dish, you want as much distance between you and the ground as possible. So next time you're climbing into your comfy bed, remember you're basically using an ancient anti-bug fortress, and somewhere, a disappointed rat is looking up at you thinking, man, humans used to be so much more accessible. Number 2. The cold shoulder. You know that feeling when someone's ignoring you and we say they're giving you the cold shoulder? Well, this phrase isn't just a random metaphor. It's actually about medieval passive-aggressive food service. Picture this. You're a guest in someone's medieval home. If they like you, you're getting the good stuff. Hot, fresh meat, maybe even the fancy plates. But if you've overstayed your welcome, like that one relative who just won't leave after Christmas, they'd serve you a cold shoulder of mutton, and we're not talking about some fancy charcuterie board here. This was literally yesterday's leftovers, probably starting to get a bit funky. It was the medieval equivalent of serving someone microwave pizza while everyone else gets steak. The message was clear. Hey buddy, time to pack up your medieval messenger bag and hit the road. It was basically the passive-aggressive version of, get out of my house. So next time someone's giving you the cold shoulder, at least be grateful they're not actually serving you old meat. Though honestly, sometimes the old meat might hurt less than the silent treatment. Number 1. The best man. Alright, so you're at a wedding watching the best man fix the groom's boutonniere and give a heartwarming speech. Cute, right? Well, historically, this guy's job wasn't about emotional support and bachelor parties. He was basically a medieval hitman. Back in the 16th century, when the Germanic Goths were doing their thing, getting married sometimes meant straight-up kidnapping your bride. The best man wasn't chosen for his public speaking skills or ability to plan a great party. He was picked because he was the best at sword fighting and general mayhem. Think less wedding planner and more medieval special ops. His job description included helping kidnap the bride, fighting off her angry relatives, and making sure she didn't escape during the ceremony. He was basically a bouncer, bodyguard, and getaway driver all rolled into one. So next time you're watching a best man nervously fumbling with wedding rings, remember that his historical counterpart would have been standing there with a sword, scanning the crowd for the bride's vengeful brothers, and you thought modern weddings were stressful. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.